What I drink really depends on where I'm at in my menstrual cycle. I really tailor my life to that.
I've always thought that boiling water to some of these herbs for an extended period of time can burn off some of the benefits.
Yeah, so this is where herbalism invites us into a deeper relationship with the plants itself, right? So when we're talking about flowers versus leaves versus stem versus roots, all 3 or 4 of those kind of prefer a different temperature of water. The difference of potency of herbs and how fresh, loose leaf herbs are significantly more medicinal than powdered. But the ethics that I've been taught is you never take the first plant that you see, you never take the last plant, and you always strive to take less than 10%. When I think of motherwort, I think of a wild woman, 50 to 60 years old. Birth control shuts off the direct conversation between the brain and the uterus, the brain and the ovaries. And seed oils, what they do when we ingest them and put them on our skin, they lead to oxidization and lead to our skin being more prone to getting burnt. People used to be steaming herbs in their home all the time for cleaning the air, cleaning the energy of the home. When there's a fight, there's a tension. Whenever I experience a tension or a fight with my partner, I try to really remember to do an herbal steam. The plants are so excited for a relationship with us. Oh, sister, I feel you, hear you calling me. Oh, brother, who will I be when I reach the sea?
It's just kind of fun to find the natural start of it. It's like, when are we starting? My whole thing with this is my favorite kind of podcasts are ones where I just feel like a fly on the wall versus the like first question, like CNN style. This is more like we're just hanging out. And I've got a lot of thoughts for us here, but it's more of just like a hangout. What do you have there?
I have my inner peace tincture.
Oh, is that for sharing?
Yeah, would you like some?
Yes, please.
You can take it directly. I love to put it in water just because I love the way it tastes and it's really calming.
Please.
What are you drinking?
This is reverse osmosis water from my home that I put lemon and sea salt and a mixture of electrolytes.
Yum.
What do you normally drink?
Herbal infusions.
Okay, like what?
What I drink really depends on where I'm at in my menstrual cycle. I really tailor my life to that. But now that it's turning to become, the hot season where it's really sunny days, I'm making my sunny days tea blend. But I'm making it as an overnight infusion.
An overnight infusion, so like cold in the refrigerator?
Exactly. Basically, the premise is that the cold water and the 6 to 8 hours of time help to extract the mineral content out of herbs slightly better than cold, like immediately hot water, right? So you take a mason jar, you add your herbs in, you fill it with cold water, shake up the mason jar, leave it overnight in the fridge, and then the next day it's ready.
I've always thought that boiling water to some of these herbs for an extended period of time can burn off some of the benefits.
Yeah, so it really depends on, this is where herbalism invites us into a deeper relationship with the plants itself, right? So when we're talking about flowers versus leaves versus stem versus roots, all 3 or 4 of those kind of prefer a different temperature of water. Roots really require decoctions. Decoctions are when you use that hot water on the stove and you have the actively boiling water pulling out the medicine of the roots for like 30 to 45 minutes. But when you're working with flowers, stems, leaves, those are lighter material. They have more surface area already exposed, and so therefore not boiling water is better.
Oh, okay. And so what's in your blend that you're doing with the overnight?
It has hibiscus, raspberry leaf, peppermint, lemon balm, and sarsaparilla root.
Oh, that's a fun one to say.
Well, what's funny about it is that I'm not from Latin America, and I'm not Latina, but I don't know how to say it in the more Americanized way of saying the word. That root is what was originally used for making root beer, like natural root beers and a lot of original chai blends.
And what's the benefit of that one?
There's no way to oversimplify a plant, but some of the ways it's really renowned is providing a really deep support for the liver, for detoxifying the liver. Yeah.
And so was root beer originally supportive of the liver?
Yeah. When you, most original foods, most foods that our ancestors would eat or drink were based in medicinal herbs and were created and perpetuated for the sake of healing our bodies.
So where did your passion for this come from? Was there someone in your family that brought you into this?
Not at all. My family is very disconnected to this way of being. I'm an Ashkenazi Jew, and approximately 1 out of every 3 or 4 Ashkenazi women. Ashkenazi means they are from originally Eastern Europe. And approximately 1 out of every 4 Ashkenazi women struggle with gut issues. And so I, alongside so many people in my community, had chronic gut issues. And I was working with this doctor that was a family friend, and she was phenomenal and trying her best with what she knew. But nothing of what she was suggesting to me was really moving and making an impact. And then one day I was on family vacation, and we were in Martha's Vineyard. Do you know where that is?
In California, is that like Napa?
It's an island outside of Massachusetts.
Oh, it's an island outside. I have no idea.
Yeah. It's approximately, you take a ferry that's 2.5 hours from Boston area. It's in the Massachusetts area.
Nice.
It's where my family always goes for a vacation. So I was on family vacation and just strolling by. My sisters wanted to go shopping like they always do, and I saw this herbal apothecary. I had heard of herbal medicine, and this is when I was in college. I just walked in, and I just shared with the herbalist there some of my symptoms, and just immediately she suggested these 3 or 4 herbs, gave them to me in powdered form, and was like, try working with these, taking the powder capsules every day for a few days and see what you feel. And I remember like 2 or 3 days into taking those herbs in capsule form, feeling a radical shift in my system. Like genuinely, immediately, no longer feeling that chronic pain and the different digestive issues that I was navigating at that time. And immediately I kind of had this thought of like, well, if it's an herb that's powdered, I can just buy the powdered herbs and make the capsule myself. So I went on Amazon and bought those plastic capsules and bought a capsule machine and bought the herbs powdered, and I just made the formula myself. And I did that for about a month or 2. And it was phenomenal. Like it was day and night of shift of impact. And then I remember having, I think like a dream or maybe some, vivid image that came through me, which was like, well, we know how herbs are grown in the ground, and we know that in order to get them powdered, you first have to harvest the herb, and then you powderize them. And I just had this curiosity of what happens if I just work with the herb itself and don't powderize it. And that question led me onto a very long spiral of research down the internet where I basically learned the difference of potency of herbs and how fresh loose leaf herbs are significantly more medicinal than powdered. So then I created a tea blend with the same herbs that I was working with that I had in powdered form. And that tea blend inspired me to start making my medicines and launching what became like a 9-year journey.
And why is it more medicinal as the whole leaf versus the powdered?
It's a really phenomenal question. The premise is, and I was actually just teaching this to children, I was trying to introduce the concept of surface area. And for those who are listening, explaining surface area to children, very hard. But the premise of it is when you take an herb and you harvest it, I'm visualizing lemon balm right now, right? You take lemon balm and you process it, and it gets, processed with your hands with love and intention, and then you have the dried herb material. There is a certain amount of surface area that is being already exposed to the dried lemon balm leaf. Can you visualize that? Mm-hmm. Now, when you take that same lemon balm leaf that has been dried and you put it in a blender and you powderize it, you're increasing the surface area by tenfold. Actually, probably way more than tenfold, right? And so when you expose the plant with more and more surface area, it can lead to more oxidation and basically a lot of its medicine being overexposed and therefore having a shorter shelf life. So I'm not arguing that powdered herbs are bad at all. I really love powdered herbs, but the best powdered herbs are ones that are powdered within a few hours or within a few months. The problem with most powdered herbs that we see in the supermarket is that they've been powdered 2, 5, 10 years ago. And so the actual medicinal benefit, a lot of the herbs have nearly gone away.
So what was that moment that you decided to incorporate?
The herbs into my life?
Well, as a business, you're like, I'm starting Plant Healing Woman.
Well, it actually wasn't called Plant Healing Woman at first. It was called the Wannabe Herbalist. And I remember at the same time of having those gut issues, I was also having skin issues. And, you know, when you speak words, Instagram overhears what you say and like gives you that content. So I was in college.
That's my favorite part about Instagram.
Really?
No.
It scares me.
It's always listening.
It's phenomenal, but it's also freaky. So I remember having these skin issues, and then Instagram was giving me content of all these different herbal skincare. And I had already, worked with herbal teas, herbal powders, and I was like, what if I just buy herbs and oil and practice making the ancient art of herbal oils? And I was really just inspired from my own skin. I wanted to be able to create something that would be supportive for my specific skin type. And I was in college and I didn't have any source of money. And so I started kind of concocting my potions and my brews in my college dorm. And I remember posting on Facebook to all my college friends, like, meet me in the library. I'm going to be selling my medicines. And all the people who bought it absolutely loved it. And they went through the balms really quickly and they wanted more. And it was that moment where I noticed that something that I could make with my hands could have such a radical impact of bringing joy to people's life, bringing excitement, especially in college when people are so stressed out all the time around their academic worries. Just being able to provide something that brought college students excitement meant a lot to me. And I quickly just followed that passion.
Hey, I just wanted to jump in here and give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's podcast, B Micro, the easiest way to sneak vegetables into any meal. Due to soil depletion, GMOs, and monocropping, Americans are not getting enough nutrients. So in 2018, I founded B Micro, the first freeze-dried microgreens company in the U.S. to help Americans get more concentrated natural nutrients into their diet. Microgreens are a phase in the plant's life when they're 14 days old and naturally the most concentrated in vitamins, minerals, nutrients, all the good things that we need. Our microgreens are grown here in the U.S. in soil and a greenhouse. They're certified USDA organic and regenerative organic. We grow, wash, and freeze dry them to extend their 1-week shelf life to over 1 year, allowing us to ship anywhere in the US without the worry of spoilage. We have 2 flavors, broccoli, backed by over 2,000 studies on sulforaphane and its powerful detox benefits, and a blend of red cabbage, radish, and broccoli, the most potent detox formula we've tested, offering you the most bang for your buck. Easily sneak these microgreens in any meal. Eggs, smoothies, pizza, pasta, even your kids' mac and cheese, you can't even taste it. Use code STEVE15 to save at bmicro.farm. So the first product was a balm?
Yeah, it was called Nourishing Balm. Yeah.
And were you wild harvesting anything then?
No. At that point, I was living right around Boston. And so, first of all, I wasn't really exposed to the whole concept of foraging, but also the particular herbs in that formula weren't even available in that bioregion. Mm-hmm. It was only when I moved to Colorado that I started opening my eyes to the foraging, wild harvesting world.
And what were some of the first things you foraged?
Rose hips. I was working at a Jewish summer camp, and I was leading children on a plant walk. And the reason why we were going on the plant walk was because a kid was struggling with their immune system and needed some immunity support, right, and some vitamin C. And I remember learning about rose hips and their vitamin C. And so I found the wild rose hips on the land, and we harvested the rose hips and made a wild rose hip tea. And the kid felt much better the next day.
will wild forage rose hips as well. They grow around my house. And how do you get the seeds out? You're probably not eating the seeds, are you? What's your kind of process for that?
Totally. Well, it really depends on what type of medicine I'm making.
I just eat it.
Okay. So, right. When we think about the Colorado area, typically early, mid, or late August, typically late August, but it depends on how much water we get, is when wild rose hips are available for harvest. When they're fresh on the plant, they are soft and you can just pick them off and nibble. When I do that, I'm like with my lips essentially like taking off the external coat of the rose hips because that's where most of the vitamin C is, and I'm just spitting out the seeds. But if I'm harvesting the plant to make an oxymel, to make a tea, to make some other form of medicine, then I'm typically harvesting it and either drying it or while it's still fresh within a few hours of the harvest, infusing it in whatever menstruum I'm using. So in that context, I don't need to pull out the seeds because 4, 6, 10 months later, I'm going to be straining out the rose hip from the menstruum either way.
What's a menstruum?
Menstruum is anything that you use to extract the medicinal properties of plants. So that could be water, apple cider vinegar, glycerin, alcohol. These are all forms of menstruums. Even oil or tallow could be a form of menstruum.
I gathered a bunch of rose hips. I'm like, how can I process this really quickly? And then just my own thought, I was like, I'm just going to run it all through my juicer, and it just turned into glue. It was a huge project to take that juicer apart. It was amazing.
Sure.
But then I had a lot, but then it did like squeeze it all, and I was able to eat the seeds and all, and I just ate like a handful of rose hips and just felt like I was like lightning to the system.
Totally. They say that approximately the amount of vitamin C that's in one rose hip is equivalent to the amount of vitamin C in a whole orange. That's part of the benefit of working with wild plants is that the soil and the nature of how and why they grow, they are extremely rich in minerals and the medicinal properties, oftentimes way more than what we can buy in the store.
How do you think about sustainability as you forage?
I think it's probably the most underrated and unspoken conversation, specifically with depths. You can see a lot of people talking about the importance of having a relationship with the land, having a relationship with plants, and yet at the same time we see most herbal companies promoting essential oils, and essential oil companies are not always, but most often perpetuating unsustainable harvest of plants. So I feel that in our society we have these two different contradicting concepts going on at the same time. One is that it's really important to sustainably harvest the plant. And the other idea is, yeah, it's important to harvest the plant sustainably, but if we're making medicine with it, we can take however much we want. And that latter way of thinking is why so many plants have become nearly outsourced. There's a huge category of plants that are medicinal herbs that we don't no longer promote and use because our ancestors, and even if they're not our ancestors, like people from the America area over-harvested the plant, and now we have very limited quantities. So I think that sustainably harvesting plants is the only way to have a relationship with herbalism, because when you're harvesting plants in the wild and you are returning to that same plant year after year after year, you're going to the same patch. You're saying hi and you're singing to the trees. You're having a relationship. You immediately notice, I harvested from this rosehip patch last year. Have my rosehips returned this year? Have they stayed the same quantity? Have they grown or have they shrunk? So when we actually notice and track the details from year to year, we really see how much the human impact on the land is tangible, right? Every year that I've been harvesting plants wild in Colorado, the places that I'm returning to are growing over time. And that's an indication that the way I'm harvesting it is not only cultivating a relationship, but also further supporting that plant to thrive.
What are the rules on wild foraging in Colorado and maybe throughout the U.S.?
So there's no official rules. That's part of the problem. I mean, there's certain areas that are like public lands or private lands, right, where there's legal laws about where you're allowed to harvest. But the ethics that I've been taught is you never take the first plant that you see, you never take the last plant, and you always strive to take less than 10%. Now, in order to do that, it requires us as human beings to really practice the muscle of opening your eyes and zooming out. It's really easy to see a plant, get excited that you know how to identify it, and just immediately grab. But ethical harvesting requires you to see the plant and actually spend 15, 20, 40 minutes walking that area, walking almost 1 to 3 miles in that area to really see how abundant it is. Now, once you see whether a plant is very abundant, then you can go ahead and harvest. And there's nuance, right? Because some of the medicinal plants that I harvest are invasive to this land. And therefore, some of the medicinal weeds that are also invasive, I feel comfortable taking more than 10% because I'm actually helping the native plants in the area thrive. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you market that at all, that you're using invasive plants and how helpful that actually is for the space?
I should.
I think you should.
I think I should market that.
I think that's a really cool narrative.
Yeah, I mean, even today, right now I'm harvesting cleavers. Cleavers tincture, we make a fresh plant tincture for the lymphatic system. And cleavers is totally an invasive plant. And most plants, when I'm harvesting it, I'm really being careful to not take the roots. But specifically with cleavers, because it's invasive, I feel comfortable taking out some of the roots so that the native plants in the area and the trees and the fungi can thrive.
Which plant that you wild harvest would you say you have the deepest relationship with?
It's hard for me to answer that question because the more the plants become your go-to friends, the allies that you rely on for almost every day for different occasions, the more that your relationship with them is really similar to real friends in real life. Like, you might have a best friend, but most adults actually get to a point in their life where they're like, about my work, I want to talk to this person about it. About my sleep, I want to talk to this friend. About my romantic relationship, I want to go to this person. And so therefore, depending on what I'm navigating, what I'm struggling with, impacts what I want to work with. I can answer right now which wild medicinal plant I'm loving the most, and it would definitely be motherwort right now. But if you were to ask me that same question in a day, it'd be something else.
I might text you that tomorrow. What is the spirit of motherwort? Who is motherwort? If you were to personify motherwort, I mean, there's the mother word in there.
Totally. Yeah. When I think of motherwort, I think of a wild woman, probably in between motherhood and her crone or elder area of time. So that could be, I mean, all women enter motherhood at different times, and a lot of women never enter motherhood, right? But let's say on average, she is 50 to 60 years old. By the time a woman arrives to 50 or 60 years old, she's gone through menarche, then the initiation into menstruation. She's hypothetically gotten married. She's hypothetically gotten pregnant and birthed a baby. And she's experiencing the next shift of stages of womanhood, which is menopause, right? So I always think of a woman in her 50s or 60s, and she is a woman who walks barefoot, who has so much reverence for the things in our life that require courage. Motherwort is a plant that we really work with when we're needing support, we're needing external courage, we're needing to find that inner love that our mother would have provided to us when we are a little kid. Motherwort gives that to us throughout our life. And motherwort is also deeply a plant of a heart ally. I see my soil under my hands right now. I was harvesting motherwort earlier today. And motherwort is really a phenomenal ally for those of us who have a heartbeat that is irregular, or a heartbeat that as soon as we're feeling nervous or scared or anxious, it's beating fast. Motherwort slows down the heartbeat, grounds us, comes back into our body, and brings us back into courage.
And how do you like to consume it?
So she's really bitter. She's a really bitter tasting plant, a part of the mint family. And so I will harvest the plant when she's flowering. She's one of those medicinal plants that harvesting her when she flowers is the best time to harvest. And I will do a fresh plant herbal elixir. So that means making a tincture and adding raw honey.
And what does that bitterness usually symbolize in nature?
Well, the bitterness of a plant in nature is an indication of the soil around it being disturbed. Typically bitter plants, think about dandelion, burdock, milk thistle. These are all examples of medicinal herbs that typically grow in disturbed soils. So the bitter indicates to the ecosystem, I see you, dirt. I see the soil. You're struggling. Let me help you. And the bitter taste in our body is an indication of digestive aid, grounding the nervous system, stimulating the sense of rest and digest, returning to safety in our bodies. So both for nervous system and digestion.
And when you're harvesting these plants, is there a conversation? Is there an offering? Is there a prayer?
There's almost always a song. I feel that songs and melodies can capture emotions of whatever we're feeling, sometimes way better than words. And sometimes when I turn to a plant and I want to speak words to it, I kind of get lost in my brain, but there's always a melody. I am a song leader. I facilitate song circles, and so there's always healing songs that are moving through my body and brain, and I'm always offering songs as my offering to the plants.
And what type of songs are these?
Typically Jewish ancestral songs or earth-based music, songs that perpetuate reverence for reciprocity and gratitude for the land.
How does your Jewish lineage support this work and weave into this?
It's a really great question. When we zoom out and look at the way that most Jews in America are living their lives, most Jews in America are quite disconnected to plants and herbal medicine. And that is actually very much directly correlated to how a lot of Jews responded to the Holocaust in particular. Around the time when the Holocaust came in, the rhetoric, especially in Germany, was really perpetuating a belief of allopathy, a belief in academia, a belief in logic and scientific realms and pharmaceutical ways of knowing. And a part of the anti-Semitism that was brewing in Eastern Europe was against specifically medicinal plants and the uses, because there was a perception that working with medicinal plants makes you witchy. And the fear of witchcraft and the fear of the power of women who practice herbal medicine was so strong that a lot of Jews over time stopped using medicinal plants. And around the time of the Holocaust, we know that a lot of the witches were burned. And we know from this book that's called Ashkenazi Herbalism that approximately 70 or 80% of the women witches that were killed were Jewish women. So when you look at that and you see that a significant portion of Ashkenazi Jewish women were killed, and those specific women held the herbal medicine wisdom, then we see that over time, generations to come, there's a disconnect. So for me, my relationship to herbalism as a Jewish woman is with the intention of bringing back and bringing a connection, like imagining like zippering up your sweatshirt, reconnecting two things that fundamentally belong together that have been separated.
And those two things?
Judaism and herbalism, or Judaism and relationship with the land. Judaism and holding reverence for the medicine of the plants.
Yeah. And speak more to the witch piece of it. Like, what's the fear? Like, how would you describe a witch, and how would those persecuting the witches describe them?
This could be its own podcast.
I'm ready.
For sure.
I'm ready.
The way that I describe a witch is someone who, typically a woman, but not always a woman, someone who has innate relationship, intimacy, and trust of the land, trust of the seasons, trust of and respect for the medicine that grows, and the belief that the plants and the ecosystem help to remind us the innate healing that our body has always been meant to do, that sometimes we just need external support, right? So to me, that's what a witch is. And typically, practically, that looks like, making medicines and tending to the women of the community. But the way that the people who killed witches perceive witches, and we still have those people today in our society. We have many of those people. When I think about how they perceive witches, I think about how American culture perpetuates a witch in a movie, right? A witch is someone who's typically old, ugly, has a big nose. She often plays a role of causing evil, like having so much magical power that she's actually causing harm to a community. She typically takes sides in the movies as well. And she has this power to it that is used for evil. And I can really understand why, when we look at the movies that we have in American culture, why we would instinctively perceive the witch to be bad. I feel that the witches held and keep on holding wisdom that all of us need, but their abilities, their power was totally misunderstood. I mean, we have all these scenes in American movies of witches like casting spells and doing things that are unexplainable, all right? And when we as humans sit with the unexplainable, oftentimes it makes us feel uncomfortable. How do we reconcile that this was happening and then this happened and all of a sudden there was like a miracle? And a lot of people don't like that. And I don't personally relate to witchcraft as like doing miracle things or doing things that are unexplainable. But I think of witchcraft as like the ability to tune into the deep surrender, right? Getting back to motherwort, you can harvest the same motherwort from the same piece of land. You can make the exact same type of medicine. You can extract it in a tincture, right? A month or two later, you strain the motherwort tincture. Both of them taste different. You use the same alcohol source, you use the same water. Then you ask, how could these two things that have the exact same ingredients taste different? Now, to me, that's where witchcraft and herbalism and the magic of plants come in. Then you get to thinking, well, maybe one tincture was made 20 minutes before. Maybe one tincture was sung to. Maybe one of them wasn't, right? These different elements that typically academic research and ways of knowing don't consider to be valuable or legitimate sources of impact. To me, that's what witchcraft is.
And what would you say your superpower is?
Believing women. Yeah.
Say again?
Believing women.
Believing women.
Yeah. I think a lot of the Western medical system, while we've done so much progress, perpetuates quite deeply a lack of belief in women. Women will come to the doctor, and not always, this is just sometimes. Women will go to doctor's appointment and say, I'm experiencing X and Y that leads me to think that I'm having Z. And a doctor will instinctively doubt and guess and challenge this woman's perception that she has Z. And so to me, herbalism and my journey with herbalism has always been responding to women, responding to me as a woman, my own gut and skin issues, responding to the women of my community, what they needed, what would support them, and believing what they say. When they say I'm experiencing X really frequently, I say, okay, let's look into that. Why is that happening? What plant can support you? How can you do things in your life to shift that for yourself?
What are some of the most common things that these women are coming to you and saying? What are some of these problems, obstacles?
Yeah, I mean, it used to be skin issues. Now, as I'm also a doula and I'm a menstrual cycle educator, I'm really focusing on the intersection of herbalism and women's health. So reproductive and menstrual health in particular. And I support a lot of women with hormonal imbalances, irregular periods, painful cycles, missed ovulation, cramps before their bleed. A lot of these symptoms that are just kind of regarded as, oh, that's a woman thing, or that's normal. I don't think that's normal, and I'm here to help women feel ease and joy in their body.
What role does birth control play in all that?
Birth control shuts off the direct conversation between the brain and the uterus, the brain and the ovaries, right? If you think about it, the brain is the communicator for everything in our body. We feel a sensation in our finger. Part of how we know that is that our brain notices the sensation, interprets it, makes meaning of it, and then communicates to the finger something, right? Now, if the source of communication between the brain and any part of the body is shut off, no healing can happen. No intimacy can happen. So to oversimplify it, birth control destroys our hormones. It shuts off the relationship between the brain and the uterus and promotes disconnect. And there's a lot of women who, when they get off birth control, all of the symptoms that they were having before birth control just come right back, and sometimes they come back even worse. And it's at that point where women have this aha realization that it was really just acting as a Band-Aid that was like suffocating whatever it was trying to protect.
So you're saying that a lot of women are getting on birth control to try to alleviate some symptoms that they're having?
Yeah, there's a significant proportion and percentage of women who are turning to birth control to alleviate various different signs of hormonal imbalance. And the pill is being marketed as a solution to that imbalance. Now, when the pill gets removed, when women stop taking the pill, typically the imbalance and the symptoms of the imbalance will return.
Do you have any insight into what percentage of women that are on birth control are also on SSRIs, antidepressants?
Yeah, there's a really high correlation between the two. When birth control was first came out, they took about 11 or 22, I apologize, I'm making a mistake, but there's a documentary about this. When they first created birth control, they took Puerto Rican women and they tested it on them. And out of the 12 or 22 women, one of them died from it. And nobody shared that piece of information. Then in the early years of really launching it and promoting it, there were a lot of women who were struggling with their mental health, getting depression and anxiety from being on birth control, but there was no research to legitimize that piece of information. And now we know through various different academic resources and also from listening to women that the correlation between birth control and depression and anxiety is quite scary. It's quite high.
So what's the path? What's like the healthy path towards getting off of birth control and SSRIs?
We need support. We need a community, right? If we are living in such individualistic ways of life and we're struggling with our mental health, no matter if we've SSRIs or not, we're going to struggle, right? So to me, that process always includes having a community of people that you get to share and process, having consistent opportunities and rituals for time to gather together, to process, to release. But also really practically, when women get off birth control, it's really important that they tend to their liver, to detoxify the liver, to release all the minerals and the chemicals in particular that birth control dropped into their body. We want to release and get rid of that. And then in addition, we want to replenish our adrenals and our mineral stores. So there's a lot of women who are on birth control who don't struggle with anxiety or depression, but a lot of women, when they get off birth control, they notice that they're really exhausted. Their mineral levels are chronically low, their iron levels, their magnesium, their zinc. All of these have been scientifically proven to be correlated to birth control. It depletes our adrenal system. And so when women are getting off of birth control, turning to really mineral-rich diet, mineral-rich herbal remedies, to replenish our mineral levels is super important.
Are women getting off of birth control? Is there a number one reason why women are getting off of birth control? Is it because they want to get pregnant, because they've been educated on the potential harms of it?
I can't speak for all women or even the majority of women. I'm sure many women are getting off of birth control for the opportunity to conceive. A lot of women get off birth control because they feel like, I want to get this thing that is external and foreign to my body, that's been inside my body out, and I want to meet myself. Some of the best, just most nourishing things, part of my work has been seeing women get off birth control, and in the 6 to 9 months, sometimes just 3 months after it, women have this spiritual awakening and they get to really encounter parts of themselves that they never really knew before. So sometimes it's for the sake of fertility. Sometimes it's because they just don't want to be taking that form of medicine. There's so many different reasons why women might get off birth control, but regardless of why, I always recommend a liver protocol and really having whole food diet, a lot of mineral-rich herbal remedies and medicines on a daily basis.
When a woman gets off of birth control, will their maybe opinion or desire for different things change? Like, might they be dating somebody on birth control and then they're off of birth control and they realize, like, oh, I might not actually really be attracted to that person anymore?
Deeply, and also vice versa for the partner who's dating the woman on birth control. When we get off birth control, our pheromones change, our sense of smell completely changes, and smell is a huge reason of how we find attraction to people. So both for the people who are dating those on birth control and for those who are on birth control who get off, who we get attracted to inevitably shifts. Science shows that it's connected to the way we smell, but there's a lot more there. There's a whole sense of finding our sense of truth that comes through that process. Yeah.
You mentioned that you're singing and that you'll bring this song, that you're in a song circle, you lead a song circle, that you bring a song to these plants. Are these all learned songs, or do these songs ever drop into you? Do the plants ever teach you?
Sometimes there's kind of melodies that spontaneously come in my brain, and I like to think that that's because of the plants or the land. Most often, though, it's songs that I've learned from other women, and I remember the feeling of learning that song and feeling the truth of that song in my body and wanting to offer that truth back to the plants.
How do you like to learn songs?
Just gathering in a circle, singing.
Mm-hmm. Just over and over?
Yeah.
Will you have it written down? Will you then go home, or you just...
No.
Yeah, just in...
Just the ancestral way of people gathering, sitting in a circle, one person or many people are singing it, and you sing the same song 5, 10, 15 times until it enters your body.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain songs that we have learned as children that there's evidence that when people get Alzheimer's and struggle with their memory and their brain function, they're still able to remember the song because of the depth of how a song literally forever lives in our body.
What languages are you learning these songs in?
Typically English and Hebrew, sometimes Spanish, sometimes Yiddish, but most often English and Hebrew.
And what type of women are joining you in this?
It's not just women, it's really anybody who wants song. I like to hold song circles for everybody.
Yeah, I don't know why I just assume women. I
Well,
just saw a bunch of just witchy women.
I
just
love that.
Getting after it. Yeah.
I mean, I love that.
That
and
was
that
my
happens.
coolest vision. I was like,
Totally.
get it.
Totally. I mean, Women of the Earth singing, nothing more powerful. But also, there's so much charge around singing for men, that for men to just be able to practice singing without holding the belief that we need to sing well in order to be allowed to sing and to be heard, that's healing for everybody.
Agreed. I did a song circle just last night.
Oh, yeah?
In my house. Mm-hmm.
How is it?
It's good. One of my best friends led it. He's from Colombia, and Medicine Man has many good songs, and I'll typically... they're all in Spanish, really, or other languages that are even more removed from that. So I'm not like very strong at Spanish, but and then sometimes I'll be able to get the print out of the lyrics, and that will help. But in English, it's certainly easier to just go over line by line by line several times. It's like, okay, we got it. It's very powerful to sing, to just like loosen the voice in that way. I think for a lot of people like that, and like that chakra of the throat gets clogged. And that's been a beautiful gift of this podcast, is forcing me to just like, okay, let it loose. And how loose can I be, and how much in like the flow can I be with it as well. There's a big gift to that. When do you feel like you really started to find your voice and in your ways of sharing? Because the way that you're coming across is very strong, confident, educated. I mean, you've been on this path in a very passionate way for a long time, and I know social media has been. I'm assuming social media has been supportive to you. I wonder what your path to finding your voice has looked like.
As you ask that question, there's two things I want to just answer. One is that in female bodies, the throat mirrors the womb. If you look at a picture of the physiology of the throat and the physiology of the uterus, they actually look quite similar. They both have a canal and a portal. And so especially for what you were saying of when we start speaking, we access truth, we unlock, we loosen what's alive in our heart. Also for women and female-bodied people, when we speak, we open our throat chakra, we access truth of our womb. So that's one thing that is super just powerful to know. But to answer your question of when I found my voice, I mean, I'm thinking about my mom, who tells me that when I was a child, we would go away and go to an event or go to a dinner, and then we would come back in the car, and she would say, like, I never stopped talking. Like, I was a chatty Kathy. So from a very, very young age, I felt very comfortable performing and taking up space and talking. And honestly, singing and getting comfortable singing to the plants, singing with other people has helped me also access a level of comfort of speaking my truth outside of the plant and song world.
And how does that translate online?
Elaborate. What do you mean by that?
Well, you put out, I wonder, I didn't really do too much research on your online, like how often you're posting or in kind of what way. What is your voice online? And how has that impacted your business?
Well, the frequency at which I post online is like very dependent on the seasons of the land and also the seasons within my body, where I'm at in my cycle, where my hormone levels are at. But my intention of how I show up online is to remind women the wisdom that we all used to know. So to remind women that the plants are there, to remind women that various symptoms that they're navigating can be easily alleviated with natural remedies.
What percentage of your clients do you think are women?
Well, according to the Instagram algorithm, it's 97%. But in terms of customers who actually purchase something from the apothecary, I would say it's about 85 to 90%.
Is women?
Yeah, most.
And why
mostly.
do you think that is? Because you're speaking to women and mostly women are finding you, and that's just kind of what your marketing is?
Yeah, and also you zoom out and you realize that so many women have medical trauma. So many women hold the experience of not being validated and not being helped. Most women go into doctors, and doctors oftentimes don't even know the basics of women's menstrual health and hormonal health. And so if they don't feel seen, if they don't feel supported, then they're going to have a higher probability of seeking something that is different, right? So I think that's a huge reason. Herbalism sometimes gives the opportunity of women to reclaim a healing experience that they didn't get elsewhere.
Do you think women care more about their health in this way than men?
Not inherently. I mean, there's a lot more marketing towards women to care, but I don't think it's inherently gendered. I think all people innately want to feel well and care about their heart and their spirit and their body.
Is there something maybe about men that, being a man, that we can't ask for help, or that we just grit through it, or it's like, I don't need it. I could just, I don't need any help.
Well, that certainly is what toxic patriarchy tells young boys of how to behave in the world. And then those young boys grow up to be men who struggle to ask for what they need, for sure. But also, similar things happen to young girls who become women. I think all of us are told at some point in our life that what we're experiencing, what we're complaining about, what we're struggling with is not real or not big and not worthy of concern, and therefore we need to just get over it. And we see how well that works out.
Do you do any post purchase surveying of your customers?
What do you mean by that?
Like when somebody checks out, purchases a product on my website, a survey pops up, or I'll email them a survey.
Cool.
And that will go through how they found us, why they purchased, and they'll just like drill in more and more to really understand why they're purchasing. On our site, it's my site, Be Micro. It's also mostly women. And I've always been really curious why that is. And I do a lot of farmers markets, and that's where we first met each other, was at a winter market. So those are nice because you get to really get that instant feedback and connection. And I'm just of the assumption that women seem to care more about their health than men do.
I mean, I don't believe that to be true. What I do believe to be true is that we live in a society and culture that doesn't teach us as girls, as women, how to take care of our bodies, how to take care of our menstrual cycles. And when we don't know how to live cyclically to honor our hormones, then we're going to have a way higher probability of having health challenges. And then if those health challenges are not being addressed, healed by the doctors, then they're going to, they're going to want to find solutions no matter where that is. But to answer your point before, on my website, what I included a few months ago is when people purchase, there's additional questions, and I ask, how did you find out about Plant Healing Woman? So I have that from that evidence and data from the past few months, and it's primarily through Instagram.
Mm-hmm. And then the second most interesting, and for me as well, and the second most interesting question I ask then is, why did they purchase? And for me and my product, they want naturally concentrated nutrients to help improve their health. So that's two different questions that they're answering. Yeah, and it's mostly women.
Yeah.
And then we take it a layer deeper on what specifically they want to improve their health. It's gut, anti-cancer things, and then just general wellness. They don't think they're getting enough good things in their diet.
Totally. I mean, we look at our soil in America. Our soil is deficient of so many minerals and vitamins that it used to be abundant in. And therefore, the food we're consuming, even if we're consuming organic food, is deficient in minerals. And then we are now, thank God, growing a culture of awareness of how important mineral levels are. And so if we can track that we're feeling really exhausted frequently, we might be curious about our iron, our magnesium levels, right? With the raised awareness of tracking symptoms and how symptoms lead to a quality of life also leads to people having a desire to alleviate symptoms and also to find allies, remedies that will help them. I imagine that's why a lot of people turn to your products, because they help bring back essential minerals that are not easily abundantly found in our modern day diet.
Yes, and some of the studies that I've seen is an apple today has about a quarter of the nutrients of an apple just maybe 80 years ago. To your point of soil depletion, there's GMOs, it's being shipped from the other side of the world. These plants, they start to degrade quite quickly after harvest. Yeah, so it's how do you get the most nutrients into your diet grow something yourself, connect to the plant in that way, support local, buy at your farmer's market, try to buy something as freshly harvested as possible. Hard to figure that out when you're at the grocery store. Where do you get your iron from? How do you get iron into your diet?
3 different ways. I mean, there's a lot of iron in a lot of food, but I eat a lot of grass-fed and finished, locally raised beef to help with iron levels. I drink lots and lots of nettle infusions. The overnight cold water nettle infusions offer so much bioavailable iron to our bodies, as well as molasses. So sometimes if I'm cooking or baking something, I'll swap out the honey or the maple syrup for molasses to get a bit more iron back into my diet.
Do you ever do shots of raw liver?
I don't.
So I go to Golden Hoof where you sell some of your product and I see you and I say, I think, good job, nice. Like what great vibes and what a great local partner to be with. But I buy anything meat-based, I pretty much buy from them. Vegetables, there's many great sources. I don't even think they sell vegetables, but there's many great sources for vegetables. I think when it comes to meat, it's like there's really, really good meat, like regeneratively grown in a loving way where these animals aren't all like traumatized and living in some type of like a hellscape world where I feel that trauma transferred from the meat into me and like that anxiety and that's like filling myself with anxiety of that animal. So it's like there's that premium meat and then it drops off like dramatically after that.
For sure.
But I buy their liver there, and I do shots of their liver frequently, and it's so energized. It's one of the very few supplements that I take that I can actually feel.
I'm sure. Are you talking about their frozen fresh liver or their liver supplements? Because they have both.
The frozen fresh. So everything there is frozen. I'll defrost it. I'll cube it. Basically in the size that I could just swallow. It's unchewable. It's rubber. You could swallow it, chase it with water as if it was like a handful of capsules. And then I will layer it on parchment paper in a glass Tupperware and I'll put that in the freezer. And then every day I'll take a couple cubes out and I'll shoot that.
That's great. Yeah, I'm definitely open to that. I just haven't.
And it's so inexpensive.
For sure. I mean, when you think about that as well as tallow, you think about so many different byproducts of tending to animals. A lot of them are really cheap because up until 50, 60 years ago, they were being completely thrown out. And then people started remembering that the food that we were throwing out from animals, first of all, was food. And second of all, that they had so much medicinal or nutrient-rich offerings to our body that people are bringing them back. But, I mean, it's remarkable to think about. I mean, it fills me with so much grief to think about how many different parts of an animal have been and still are just thrown to the trash, to landfill.
When a pack of wolves take down an animal, the alpha wolf gets to eat first, and it typically, if not always, eats the liver first.
Totally. I mean, I think about my friends who ethically go hunting. They do quite similar things. Yeah. I mean, it comes back to our conversation of herbs, right? When we develop true intimacy with an herb, with an animal, with a tree, we understand it to be whole. We understand that every part of it has a purpose, has a benefit to itself and to other things. And so therefore, when we have that relationship with the plant or animal or tree, we're going to use all parts of it. We're not going to just dissect it and use one part of it. That's what pharmaceutical medicines do. That's what essential oils do. But that's not what intimacy and like radical living with the land, that's not how we live.
So you're the plant healing woman that has recently moved into tallow. How was that jump? Was there any friction in that?
Yeah.
And what is tallow?
Tallow is a source of fat that comes from different animals. Typically, tallow is sourced from beef, but you can get lard, which is an extraction of pigs, or schmaltz, as we like to say, which is chicken fat. There's fat in most animals. I particularly work with beef tallow, And there was a little bit of friction for me because when I was in college, I was a vegetarian for many years, and I was very passionate about being vegetarian. And through developing a relationship with herbalism, through becoming a doula, and through becoming someone who specializes in menstrual health, I started really understanding just how deficient our bodies are and how much we thrive with animal sources of fat and protein. And so, yeah, there was a little bit of discomfort in my body because if you look online, a lot of herbalists are vegans or vegetarians. A lot of herbalism is synonymous with the belief that you should only eat certain foods, right? And that way of thinking, I'm not saying is bad, typically leads to people not using and working with animals, either for food or for skincare. But I first started sourcing my tallow from Golden Hoof, and I very quickly outsourced what they were able to provide for me. And I remember learning just how much tallow topically provides our skin so much bioavailable vitamin A, C, and E. And when I realized that, I realized, wow, in most skincare products, you see vitamin E added as an ingredient. But if we work with tallow that is locally and pasture raised, grass-fed and finished, we can get those vitamins that our skin needs just from one ingredient. So I really quickly merged together my passion for intimacy with the land and animals with whole plant herbal extractions, and that's what created my tallow skincare line.
Yeah, I want to show you something. I brought something here. What do you think of these headphones?
I love them.
Yeah, it's no big deal, right?
Yeah, it took some time, but I actually love the headphones.
So I brought a couple of my favorite products of yours. I'd never heard of tallow before you started carrying it. And now you have several. You have a Tulsi Rose, which is very like light and whipped. A vanilla bean, also similarly like very light. And then a Into the Woods, which has pine resin in it. Definitely a little bit stronger, but probably the one that I connect the most with. And when did you introduce these tallows? Maybe a year ago?
I think 2 years ago at this point. It was around May, 2 summers ago. Yeah.
This has been a favorite Christmas gift of mine for family because my family is from Chicago. They're not really familiar with anything in this kind of a way. So I keep introducing them to like, hey, here's a new healthy thing. And I put it out on my face pretty much every day. And if I don't put it on my face, then I really feel dry.
Totally.
And I will wash my face without soap, just water. And then I just put tallow on my face.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I get complimented.
I'm sure.
I
actually noticed that your face looks like it's glowing. I was going to say something.
I've got great lighting, especially on me.
Totally.
But yeah, thank you. It's a tallow. And I tell many people, you know, I'd never heard of tallow before you brought, and I was like, whoa, that's so interesting that you're all in on plants, and I am too, but I certainly eat meat when it's done in a really good way and it like really works and it's like supportive of me and the plant and the whole system. But it really surprised me when you brought this tallow product to market because the first product that I got from you was the Floral Glow that was paired with some other type of, I'm forgetting the name of it, of like a balm that you're like, hey, pair
Restore balm.
Yeah, and that's what we
With
did.
the shea butter.
Yeah, I think so. We did like an initial trade. I traded you some microgreens and tea. You traded me that first time that we met, and then and that I really enjoyed, and that felt really good. And then the tallow just felt like a whole nother level that I was so shocked, and almost I was like so on team plants, and I'm still so on team plants. I was almost like upset that the animal could be that strong at first.
Totally. I mean, it's so funny to me that there's like the instinct to even compare it. It's like team animal versus team plant. They both need each other. The cows need the herbs. They need the grass. They need the plants to survive. And the plants thrive when the animals eat them, because then the animal poops out the seeds and enable the plant to reproduce. They're not separate. It's not, I'm thinking of, what is that? What's that movie series about the vampires? Twilight. It's like Team Bella versus Team whatever it's called.
But that's a thing. And I think
Totally.
I think our society really likes teams.
Oh my God,
There's the
yeah.
good guys and the bad guys with everything.
For sure. And part of my intention with my tallow skincare line was to remind people that it's not team animal versus team plants. It's both at the same time. And what I love about the tallow skincare is because of the depth of the extraction that I'm doing. I'm not using essential oils, which requires lots of plant and herbal material. You really are getting the medicinal benefits of the herbs as well as the medicinal benefits of the tallow at the same time.
Now, I grew up in a way where I was kind of raised to be fearful of the sun. It's like the sun it's going to hurt you. It's going to get you. And up until maybe 3-4 years ago, I wasn't really going into the sun. I was like, shade spot to shade spot. And I noticed the more I clean up my diet, which I'm very clean now, and I use good topicals like a tallow, the sun feels really good to me. And I can build a good base, and I could like bounce back from any type of a burn. Would you talk about our relationship with the sun? Because I think it's a common, at least in some of my circles growing up, misconception that the sun is bad for us.
For sure. I mean, I remember being raised and we would go on family vacation. We would go to really hot tropical places, and consistently we would put on a lot of sunscreen and then get burnt. And I remember at some point, just maybe around college or after college, having this thought of, why am I still getting burnt? And the most common normative answer is like, well, you just didn't apply enough. You just have to reapply it like every 30 minutes, every hour. But then I started noticing that there were a lot of days when I'd be with my family not putting on sunscreen, or I would be putting it on once, but then I would be a kid, jumping into the pool a lot, and I wouldn't get sunburn. And so then I noticed that there was a relationship to movement and getting burnt, meaning that when you're outside on the land and you're walking and you're moving, you have a less higher chance of getting burnt than if you're outside reading, being stable, right, and just like absorbing the sun. And I don't fully understand why that is, but what I do know is when I got introduced to tallow, first of all, tallow has SPF of sun protection on its own. It has 3 to 5 SPF. So that might be a part of why when people wear tallow skincare, they're less likely to get burnt, right? But also, we also know that the average American diet has so much seed oils in it. And seed oils, what they do when we ingest them and put them on our skin, they lead to oxidization and lead to our skin being more prone to getting burnt. So then that opened a whole rabbit hole of how what we eat impacts how often we get burnt. I mean, I'm a full-time forager from May until October. I make my own tallow sunscreen, but besides for that, I oftentimes apply it maybe once a day. I apply sunscreen very infrequently. I do support sunscreen. I believe that having, zinc and mineral sunscreen could be a really nourishing way to protect your skin from getting burnt. But my belief around this is that I'm not afraid of the sun. I'm not even afraid of getting burnt. I'm afraid, or I have reverence for the impact on our skin when we get continuously burnt. And so for me, my goal is to receive all of that vitamin C, all of that vitamin D that the sun and the land can provide while still preventing getting sunburn. And I have noticed that as I started eating lots of raw carrots and I drink a lot of matcha and green tea, I don't get sunburn all that often. And there's actually scientific studies that are coming to analyze the different compounds in green tea, in carrots, that show that those compounds, when we consume them, help prevent getting sunburnt.
Would you talk more about the oils of the seed vegetable oils that are harming so many people, and they're just getting they're just in so many products, and it's a real issue for me with going out to restaurants. It's it's like, man, even if you go to a really high-end restaurant, say an Italian restaurant where it's like it should just be clean olive oil, it is typically split with some other type of seed oil or vegetable oil to water it down. It's hard to get. So I'll go to the restaurant and I'll say, hey, I'm allergic to seed and vegetable oils. Can you cook whatever it is
Without
in butter?
And how do they respond?
They'll typically like, we can do some boiled cabbage for you because everything's already cooked. And it's like, we don't really do cook to order. Apparently that's not how a lot, but there are places in town in Boulder, like Wild Pastures, shout out to them, that cooks in tallow, but very rarely can I get them to.
For sure.
They get kind of freaked out by it. They're like, we'll just give you cucumbers and some guacamole, and that's our options for you.
Wild Pastures is actually my tallow source for my tallow skincare line. I'm the only individual business who they sell to. Just so you know. Nice.
Yeah. Shout out Chaz Smith. He's a friend, and would love him. We'll love to have him on the podcast as well. Yeah. I mean, that's a great burger. It's definitely my favorite burger in town. Love the way that he does business, and yeah, it's very clean. How did you two connect?
When I was looking for a larger source for tallow, I was reaching out to a lot of the farms, and the quantity that they were able to provide for me and the consistency was just not high and frequent enough. And so I reached out to a friend who has a lot of intimate relationships with farmers, and he just was well versed in that world. And I said, do you happen to know where I can get tallow in bulk that's grass-fed and finished, sourced from regenerative farms? Do you have a source for me? And somebody connected me to someone who connected me to Wild Pastures. Yeah. But to get to what you originally asked about how I navigate seed oils, I definitely went through a period where I had a lot of fear of consuming seed oils, and I was really strict and adamant of never buying something that has seed oils on it. And for me, as someone who's a woman who there's just so much fear-mongering already, for me it's really important to be intentional of the ingredients that I choose to buy for my home, and to have some relaxedness in my system around what I eat when I go out. So I try to, basically I don't buy anything that has seed oils that enters my home. But if I'm going out to eat, I just take the approach of just remembering the resilience of my body and remembering how infrequently I eat takeout food, and I'll eat regular takeout food. Really, the concern around seed oils is not about a one-time use. It's about how consistently eating it in almost every meal, every day of the week, over time has an impact. And what's also important to state as it relates to the sunburn conversation is that there's a lot of people who eat no seed oils and still get sunburn, right? It's not completely a direct correlation of no seed oils, you don't get sunburned. But there is a correlation of reducing your seed oil consumption leads to your skin aging slower and also less sunburn damage. So there's some correlations, but it's not like direct impact.
What's your best practice for using tallow?
My best practice?
Yeah,
Meaning?
how I do it is, again, I wash my face with just water, take a shower, and then as soon as I get out of the shower, I like to put it on. Pat dry my face, and then put it on.
So what we know from dermatologists and people who've studied skin health in particular is that water actually enables our skin to receive the hydration properties of oil and fat better. So that's why when you see online, there's like so many different stages and steps to skincare. Typically, the most important step is some form of water or liquid and some form of oil or fat. So that could be a hydrosol. I love rose hydrosol or yarrow hydrosol. And then sometimes I will just put tallow right afterwards. Or if I'm not wanting my tallow skincare, I'll use my Love Your Lymph, which is a lymphatic oil. It's an extraction of herbs in avocado oil and castor oil. But the
And
premise is
castor oil?
castor.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
Castor. Castor oil, as it relates to seed oils, is an interesting one. Castor oil is actually technically a seed oil, but when you look into all the different seed oils, there's certain seed oils that are higher in PUFAs and lower in PUFAs. The ones that are lower in PUFAs are the ones that typically have the less damage and impact. So castor oil is relatively low in the PUFA scale, and so I will work with castor oil. Castor oil is a really, really thick oil, and so I infuse the castor oil into dandelion, cleavers, red clover, calendula, mint, and I also pair it with avocado oil to make both a topical, lymphatic, and breast massage oil, but you can also use it on your face. But getting back to what you were saying, I always have either water or hydrosol, and then I pair it with either tallow or some form of oil. Because the water that gets sprayed and placed on our face actually helps the oil get further penetrated and absorbed into our skin. If you just, leave the shower, get your face completely dry, and then put on some form of oil, it won't absorb into your skin, and it won't last nearly as long.
So ideally, putting tallow on right after you get out of the shower or right after you wash your face.
Yeah.
Are most people just using it on their face, or how are your customers liking to use it?
I think mainly for face or particular parts of the body because I offer them only in 4 ounce, right? If I offered it in 8 or 12 ounces, I'm imagining that people would put it all over their body.
Yeah, I want that.
For sure. God willing, one day when I have enough inventory and ability to ethically source the plants in larger quantity, I probably will go there.
Is the plants then, that's like the choke point? It's hard to get enough plants, easy to get enough, or easier to get enough tallow?
I mean, it's now that I have the source that I have, I don't have a limit in my quantity of the tallow. It's mainly that each batch of herbal tallow skincare that I make takes anywhere between 4 to 6 days. It's a very labor-intensive process and requires a lot of literally squeezing out the herbs from the aloe and the tallow. So it just takes time. It's a pretty labor-intensive product.
So what does a day-to-day look like for you now?
Now in the foraging season, you mean?
Oh, now in the foraging season, and also now I heard you say year 9 of this business?
I'm year 9 of being an herbalist and studying herbalism. I'm year 4 or 5 of the business. There's been so much transition of how my day-to-day life is. But during the foraging summers from May until October, I'm typically harvesting plants from my garden or some other organic farm or garden, or I'm wildcrafting. So that means going on a hike and harvesting the plants for anywhere between 4 or 5 hours a day. I'm typically managing my social media. I just hired a social media person to join the team, but I'm still a primary face and doing a lot of the marketing for social media. I'm harvesting the plants, I'm extracting them, I'm processing them, I'm putting them into jars, I'm labeling them, I'm packaging. Every point of the process, my hands are infused with. Now that I have a team of women, they take on certain roles with me, so I don't have to do everything on my own, which is so helpful. But yeah, an average day for me looks like harvesting the plants, extracting them, responding to customers online via Instagram or email, communicating with wholesalers, editing, packaging labels, tweaking the website. And then I also have one-on-one sessions with clients. So if women are struggling with their menstrual health or hormonal balances, or really actually any form of health challenge, I offer one-on-one consultations. So a few times a week I'll have meetings like that. But yeah, I mean, during this time of the year, it's harvest, pray, medicine making. Yeah.
Is that your favorite part of the business?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, there's nothing like walking on a trail and just surrendering to just the awareness that medicine is around me and that the medicine yearns to be known. So often when people are first starting to get into herbalism and foraging, there's this like fear of harvesting the plants. They feel like they're harming the plants. And when we learn that by harvesting the plants in sustainable, intentional ways that are rooted in botany, we're actually helping the plants thrive, that inspires people to want to do it in a sustainable way, right? So that year and year after, we come back to the same spot and we see growth, we see ecosystems thriving. There's nothing like the feeling of just being with fresh plants.
Why would the ecosystems thrive?
Well, certain plants, they grow faster and more efficiently when we harvest them at specific stages, right? If you think about mint, lemon balm, which are both part of the mint family, when you harvest both of those or either of those earlier on in the season, it enables the plant to keep on growing. Yeah. It's kind of like a haircut, right? When you get a haircut every month, every few months, you're supporting your hair to continue growing. Will your hair grow without a haircut? 100%. But there's something about the act of cutting your hair that communicates to your hair follicle production of, okay, we're refreshed, we're revitalized, it's time to grow.
Part of some of my teachings is when I'm wild foraging and harvesting typically to make a tea or like a smudge, I am making an offering to that plant. Either it's water that I've carried in, or tobacco, or cornmeal, something in that kind of a way. And this is more from Native American, Indigenous, Lakota, Navajo, Dene kind of ways of thinking that you can't get something for nothing. There has to be a contract. There has to be some type of a give to be able to receive, to even be able to receive the full essence of the plant. Yeah, we could still take it, and it's like, hey, that's mine. I'm gonna take it. But the plant can't fully give itself like it would if you were to make an offering.
For sure. I mean, something that is so often missed when people start learning about herbalism is the premise that every herb has a spirit. It has an energy, and a huge component of what's called energetic herbalism is understanding that each plant actually has a specific personality type of a person that it really thrives with, right? Blue vervain, for example, is another bitter plant that I love. I have a blue vervain tincture. Blue vervain is Jay in a nutshell. Well, certain parts of me in a nutshell. It's really good for people who are a bit more over-intellectualizing, fixated on the same thought, the perfectionist, the type A, the more neurotic person who easily gets tight and tense in their shoulders, their neck, in their jaw. Blue vervain is phenomenal for.
Do you have some right now? I want some right now.
I wish, but I can share about the different profiles of plants in the inner peace formula. So, skullcap. Skullcap is a part of the mint family, and skullcap is phenomenal for those of us who feel like we've monkey brains, feel like our thoughts are racing and our energy is like ping-ponging off of a wall. Skullcap literally provides the somatic feeling of something capping your brain, grounding your skull, bringing you back into your body, helping you feel grounded, right? In contrast, Tulsi is another grounding plant, but it's also uplifting. It's really supportive for when we're feeling down and groggy, and it's really helpful for those of us who struggle with mental fog, feeling like we can't really access the freshness, the vibrance of our brain, right? And then in contrast, motherwort is also in this formula, as I shared before. Motherwort is for those of us who have the stress that presents in the heart. And so when we start learning plants, we don't only learn their name and their Latin family, what family they come from, their medicinal properties, we also learn the personality of the plant. And by learning the personality of the plant, we actually can have more accuracy of the medicine working. You can give two people who are siblings the same medicine, but one of them is really a worrywart. They're always worried. Another of them is really often angry. You take two different nervines, herbs in the nervous system category, they won't work the same way because each plant has a specific personality type that it thrives with.
Can we do a lightning round brought to you by our sponsor, Be Micro?
Yeah.
I want to go through, you brought up the personality of plants. I wrote down a bunch of the ingredients in some of your plants, and we did a little bit of a warm-up with, was it mother? Mm-hmm. What was it called again?
Motherwort.
Motherwort. Okay, I almost didn't want to say that. I didn't want to say it wrong. All right, motherwort. So I'm going to just say some plants that you're currently using in some of your formulas, and you just say what is either the personality, the soul, the personification, and just a few words. We'll do it quick.
Okay.
Dandelion.
Stagnation, heaviness, irritability, and congestion.
Mm-hmm. And wondering also kind of what's the soul of it, like the spirit of it, and maybe that is it. But I was hearing more of is that more of the what it's helping with?
Totally. I mean, I would think the spirit of dandelion is renewal.
Fennel.
Cleansing.
Chamomile.
Grounding and comforting.
How do you say that word?
Chamomile?
Chamomile. Some people, I used to have
They
a
both
chamomile
work.
tea, chamomile,
They
chamomile,
both work.
tomato,
Totally.
calendula.
Vibrance and cleaning. A really important lymphatic ally.
Lavender.
Lavender is a tricky one. Hope, comfort, and cleaning. The ability to clean and clear out what we don't need.
Love that it's all in blossom right now in Boulder. Mm-hmm. Love the lavender. Rosemary.
Vitality, memory, remembrance, ancestors, elders.
Sage.
Protection, cleaning, and strengthening.
Juniper leaves.
Protectors.
And juniper berries.
Similar, but they have a bit more of that groundedness because their surface areas, they're more dense. So I would say juniper berries have this, juniper berries are phenomenal in certain contexts of needing antibiotics for the gut. They have this deep groundedness of what they can work on in ways that the leaf is not the same.
That was great. And juniper is probably the plant that I have the deepest connection with in Colorado. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy juniper forests, mostly in the Paonia area, if you ever get out that way. There's just so much juniper, which is, my understanding, part of the cedar family. I believe so. Mm-hmm. And I'll go I've been going to the same forest for a long time. I'll go in and it will and it will present itself more and more. It's a relationship with the forest, with the trees. And I'm intentionally for the first time, these are the plants that outside of microgreens that I've been really trying to connect with. And so I'll go in sometimes with a saw of a little electric saw or a hand saw, and I'll cut away dead branches. And as part of the offering to them, as it frees them up, cut around their base to allow the deer to bed underneath them. And then I will harvest the sap. And I'll use that I'll just hold some in my mouth, and then I'll also smudge with it.
Totally.
And then I'll take that smudge, and I'll just put it on instant burning coal. And indigenous say that's the blood of the tree. That's really helpful, especially that one for clearing out what no longer serves. And they say ghosts, but just dense, stale, heaviness energy that's just, which is more associated with angst, sad, fear. Those are denser feelings. And then I will gift that to people as well, all over the country as I visit, and I see the way that the plant seems to really like that, likes me to spread it in that kind of a way. I have a little metal jar tin that I keep the juniper in, and in many song circles I'll use that as a rattle as
Beautiful.
Well. Yeah, so that is my plant. What else might you tell us about the the juniper and how to work with it, or what else can you share, just because I have such a unique interest in it?
Well, it makes sense that you love the Into the Woods telebalm, because in it I harvest juniper berries and leaves and I extract it into the tallow. So that just adds to the depth of your relationship with it.
And you use pine resin in that one, right?
Mm-hmm. It's, as you were describing the resin of juniper, it is so subtly but powerfully different than the scent of a ponderosa pine resin. They both have resins, and they typically are neighbors. They live in the same forest oftentimes. But there's this sweetness and hearth. Like when I think of the juniper tree, I think of the feeling of coming home and having your parents have a homemade meal that's cooked from food in their own land or their garden or their neighbors. And like the nourishment and the way that like coming into a home that's filled with the smell of homemade food, how that makes us soothed in our system. I feel that juniper really provides that for us, for our soul. Juniper, as I was saying before, the berries, when they're extracted in alcohol, can be really, really supportive. And this is important to only work with when you're working with a practitioner, an herbalist, but it can be really supportive in context of gut infections, chronic gut issues. And I love making skincare with juniper. I find that it has a really similar medicinal benefit to it, like lavender, right? Thinking about a rash, or there's like an infection, there's gunk. It helps clean the area. It's deeply antimicrobial. It cleans the area. And soothes in that way.
Is there a way that maybe the average person could work with the plant? Could that be gather some of the berries or leaves and put it in a cold tea or a hot tea? Could it be, as I said, smudging with it? Any other thoughts that just people could just approach the tree and already start to work with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think of steaming. I mean, the act of steaming is really not well known anymore, but people used to be steaming herbs in their home all the time for cleaning the air, cleaning the energy of the home. When there's a fight, there's a tension. Whenever I experience a tension or a fight with my partner, I try to really remember to do an herbal steam. And the practice of it is just harvesting the plant. It could be fresh or dried. You put it into a pot with water and you allow it to boil as if you're making a tea. And then as soon as it starts boiling, you bring it down to low or off. And the act of the steam is capturing the medicinal benefits of the herbs and cleaning the area. Now, when we have sinus issues, respiratory issues, herbal steams for the sinus is probably one of the most effective forms of herbal medicine that are often not spoken about. You ask a lot of herbalists, and a lot of herbalists will make or suggest tinctures. Now, I love tinctures. I make them all the time, and they're phenomenal. But there's nothing quite as effective when you're having that congestion around your nose to have medicinal herbs that are opening the pathway, opening your nasal passageway to clean itself, to repair the pH, to move the gunk, to get it out of you. Oh my God. First of all, it smells delicious. It makes your home smell so good, but you really feel so much better. So I would recommend, if you have juniper berries around your home, harvest some in gratitude and reverence, collect some, and have maybe it be a ritual, maybe every new moon or every full moon or once a month, whenever you can. Rituals hold us whenever we ask them to hold us. So it doesn't need to be around the full moon or connecting with the lunar cycles. However, we as humans typically have pretty intense emotions get heightened around those phases of the moon. But really, any point, take the herb, make an herbal steam, and allow the spirit, the medicine of the plant to just guide you and support the home.
Do you then walk that around your home?
No, what I typically do is I put it on hot until it starts boiling, and then I leave it on low for about 20 or 30 minutes, or sometimes even 35, depending on how strong it is. I leave it on low for a quite significant amount of time so that it's actively like still working the heat, really bringing out a lot of the volatile oils of the plant. And then I will shut off the stovetop, and I might bring it around my home, or I might just leave it. Oftentimes, like, the kitchen is really a place in our home that is holding a lot of emotional, energetic space, right? Think about all the emotions we bring to our food, all of the intense thoughts that we're thinking before, during, and after our meal. And I'm thinking about, like, chopping vegetables when we're stressed and when we are moving through hard things. Like, the kitchen holds a lot of stagnant energy. So sometimes I just leave it on the stovetop to support the kitchen space.
Do you ever do an herbal bath?
I do, yeah. So sometimes what I'll do once the steam is done, I'll strain what was in the pot and add it to a bath. I love herbal baths.
Same. And some of the trainings I've done is drink that as a tea, and then just pour it on
over your head.
Pour it on yourself, and then don't wash that off.
Totally.
And then that's very cleansing from the inside out. And a typical, the Dene that taught me this, they will do with sage, pinon, or up here we would do the ponderosa, thank you, and cedar, and we can do juniper instead. So they'll drink some, bathe yourself with it, and that's just it's a way to just really clean yourself up.
Oh yeah, I mean, what you're sharing is a beautiful example of when you start working with a plant, it always leads to creativity. You harvest a plant, you want to make an herbal steam. Now you're excited to drink it as an herbal tea. Now you're excited to add it to your bath. Now you're experimenting with how does your skin feel when it's in your bath? How does your hair respond? Are you using it instead of shampoo? Are you using it in addition to shampoo? This is what I was sharing before with my journey with herbalism. Herbalism is addicting. The plants are so excited for a relationship with us. So many humans don't know them, don't care about them. And so when humans have a desire to work with them, the plants are like bouncing with joy. They just want connection. And their excitement for our relationship with them, I believe, is a huge reason why we as humans get all this excitement and all these creative ideas of how to work with the plants.
In the hierarchy of this world, where do plants and humans fall in relation to each other? Are plants here to support human, and human is at the top? Or are we equal? Are some plants, these master plants, are some of those above us?
It's a really good question. I typically orient towards plants and humans as being best friends, so therefore on the same level. But there is something to really think about. What the image that just came to mind is like all the times in my life when I've been really struggling, and what I instinctively want to do is go to a tree and sit below a tree and just have the spirit of the tree just hold me. And then when you think about the fact that that tree could be 30, 50 years old, but oftentimes it's like 100 to 500 years old. It depends on how you understand hierarchy, right? Because a lot of plants have been here way longer than we have. 2 days ago, I was foraging horsetail in the woods. Horsetail is one of the oldest medicinal plants that is known to society. We have evidence that horsetail was alive and growing when dinosaurs were prevalent. And therefore, when you harvest it, you're harvesting an ancient medicine that has been here not just beyond humankind, way before we as humans became humans. So from that point, each individual horsetail that I'm harvesting an elder that is also in this like baby new form, right? Because I harvested it in the springtime. But it's a beautiful question. I'm going to sit with that a little bit more. I don't typically think of it as like a hierarchy, but there is something to think about of the plants that have been here long before us. Right? I mean, it's kind of like asking a person to imagine their great-great-great-great-great-grandmother And imagine if your great-great-great-great-great-grandmother was in a room, how would you walk towards her? How would you speak to her? What would you ask her? How would you go about taking care of her? Like, how would that be different than talking to someone your age? Hopefully, it would be quite different, right? And therefore, when we're connecting with trees that are way older than us, I think we have the same responsibility to have that level of reverence for them as well.
Beautiful. Jay, I got you a gift. This is, any guesses?
The booster blend. Any guesses? Well, I could look at it, right?
Yeah, you can look at it.
Is this? Oh, this has red cabbage, broccoli, daikon radish, trident radish, purple sango radish.
What do you think of those vegetables?
They're phenomenal. They are so important. A lot of them are bitter and therefore really supportive for a digestive enzyme. And also broccoli is really supportive for balancing women's experience of the luteal phase, the premenstrual phase right before menstruation. It sounds delicious, but do I add it to my eggs? Yeah.
Yep. Use it as a raw ingredient on anything you want. Just don't cook it.
Cool. Because we want to preserve the nutrient components of it.
And what are your thoughts on how do you understand microgreens? How do microgreens kind of fall within your understanding of plants?
I mean, to me, they feel more so food. They fall under the category as food as medicine. They feel. I always have some microgreens in my house. Typically, I have them fresh, but this is phenomenal also when it's like fall and winter time when there's no fresh microgreens to be resourced, or is there?
There's growers like at Golden Hoof. Kelly Jean supplies them, and maybe you get hers, but everyone's growing indoors.
Right.
So it's year round.
Totally.
The thing with freeze dried is the longer shelf life, and then we can get it USDA organic certified. We're also regenerative organic certified, and then it might not be on that label, but we are on our newer labels. And then what else about it? We can ship it anywhere. Where since they're just babies, they don't transport.
Totally, that makes sense. That's exciting. I look forward to adding it to my morning eggs.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We're at time. Is there anything else that you'd like to share or ask or let us know about before you let people know where we can find you?
Well, you can find me at planthealingwoman.com. I have an apothecary. My team and I, we ethically make more than 30 different herbal medicines with whole plant extracts, no essential oils. And feel free to follow me on Instagram.
At Plant Healing Woman?
Yep.
This podcast is brought to you by B Micro, organic freeze-dried microgreens for easy, natural nutrition. Sprinkle them on any meal and enjoy the benefits. Shop now at bmicro.farm and use code STEVE15 to save. I haven't looked at your lineup in quite a while, and in preparation for this, I was like, whoa, you have a lot of new products, at least new to me. What is one product that you think I would enjoy the most outside of these tallows that I'm using? What's a product that you're sensing into from me?
Well, I think that you're a little bit of a foodie. I have the impression that you really care about the food you eat and really care about not only enjoying the food you eat, but really receiving the medicine and the nutrients. So the two products that come to mind is one, if you like herbal salts, we have a garden thyme herbal salt blend. It has stinging nettle, lemon balm, chives, I'm forgetting some of the other ingredients, and Redmond salt. And then I'm also thinking of our digestive bitters blend. So that's something you spray into your mouth 20 minutes before you eat, and it increases bile production, digestive enzymes, and puts your body into a rest and digest state so you can actually receive the minerals and nutrients of the food. My partner's been feeding me that because she thinks that my allergies are connected to my gut, and she's been doing all these things to support. Oh, really? Oh, for sure. I think allergies are really correlated to our gut health, but even more correlated to our nervous system. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Anything else you want to share? And because of your love for songs, I just wanted to teach you a song. Thank you. It's written by Mamuse. Do you know of them? I don't think so. Oh, they're phenomenal. They're based in California. It goes like this. Finding my way, finding my way. Finding my way, oh, finding my way, finding my way back home. Try that. Finding my way, finding my way, finding my way, finding my way, oh, finding my way, finding my way back home. Let's do that again. Finding my way, finding my way, finding my way, finding my way, oh, finding my way, finding my way back home. And then it goes like this. Oh, sister, I feel you, hear you calling me. You can do sister or brother. Oh, sister, I feel you, hear you calling me. And then it goes brother. Oh, brother. And then it ends like this. Who will I be when I reach the sea? Oh, sister, I feel you. I feel you, hear you calling me. Oh, brother. Oh, brother. Who will I be? Who will I be when I reach the sea? 3, 2, 1. Finding my way. 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 Oh, finding my way. Finding my way back home. Finding my way. Finding my way. Finding my way. Finding my way. Oh, finding my way. Finding my way back home. Oh, sister. Oh, sister, I feel you, hear you calling me. Oh, brother, who will I be when I reach the sea? That's it.
Ooh, you're a strong singer.
Thanks.
Thanks for sharing that. That was beautiful.
Yeah, I figured that you'd love it. You should look up Finding My Way by Mamuse on YouTube.
Happy to. Always happy to learn English songs too.
Oh, it's so much easier.
It's so much easier.
It's so much easier.
Thank you. That was a real gift. Thank
sure.
you, Jay.